mennä toiselle?
Joo. Se on vähän 2 hours.
Raining in Espoo.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was raining
Also in
about 2 hours.
Yeah.
From 2 to 4.
Ai. Se on niin lämmintä.
Se on tosi lämmin.
Ai se on lämmin.
Tosi lämmin.
Pitäisikö käydä pitää?
Joo. Antti mennä.
Yllätyshulluja.
Yllätyshullu. Yllätyshullu.
So instead of white goods or assembly business, they're going to this component business, substantially, and they're moving forward. And amusement or game industry or components. That's the Japanese is moving up. And let the China take care of this assembly stuff. It doesn't provide any competitiveness for Japan anymore. The labor cost is too high, and they don't want to work. The real problem we have in Japan is that younger generation doesn't want to get into manufacturing sector anymore. It doesn't give them any intrigue. Too boring, too miserable from their point of view, working in a factory, It doesn't give you any kind of a pleasure or pride. Yeah.
You are really one direction with the podium.
No. And I'm gonna, introduce a
No, ja Terva lähti palaamaan.
Mulla olisi niinku se teoria kierrätystä, niin kaikki Nokian myyntiä ja myynnissä ja ostossa olevat henkilöt.
Also an operator, they used rather strong language. They have built their brand with a lot of money, and they are selling the phones in their brand name. And they don't want to have those phones that they are selling in their brand, that Nokia is manufacturing, they don't want them to be stained with the blood of children from Southeast Asia.
Maybe we think that we are doing okay. Are we really doing okay on ethical issues? Nokia is a big company. Spotlights are on Nokia all the time. So it's absolutely crucial that we treat this topic as a very, very important issue for us as a management. If we want that to be successful, this starts by the top management. And top management of sourcing and procurement is here around the table.
We get questions all the time, and especially these ethical funds, as when I said about these funds, that Nokia is a member of Dow Jones Sustainability Group Index, and also FTSE for Good, so we have been accepted as part of these ethical funds. And it's in a way good for us. But now we are going to face really the challenge for being parts of those funds, because now when we are parts of those funds, we can't afford to be dropped from there. Now those funds, they are also having environmental analysts and ethical analysts. They don't only believe in what we say. If we just say that, hey, yes, we are good, they want to see facts, exactly.
I think the question is that how much are we really trying to change the world to be a better place in those kind of countries where we are actually kind of looking things through the fingers? Do we have a clear commitment and a clear strategy to actually?
Yeah. Or do we want to make illusion that we are clean and really be able to send a press release or a PR type of communication and say we are clean?
Yeah.
I think there's two issues.
So we are going to have the supply chain pilot in China in January. We will make 2 in-depth ethical assessments.
So, from the board, and what is the guidance?
Yeah.
Kind of, are we just doing damage limitation, or do we have some kind of a consistent program, and we start to be advocates of the Amnesty International, advocates of the trade unions, etc., etc. And what is our strategy in this issue?
Nokia level has not really any strategy. It has given mainly this supply level strategy has given to global sourcing that if somebody does it, we have to do it ourselves.
Connect to the future. Nokia, connecting people.
a lot of key directions. Definitely very much focus. And my presentation is really to together from the Super side and Nokia side what it means that we need to work together to make an NP, Nokia mobile phone, even more robust. The first thing is 100% compliance to the ethical behavior. And Nokia is not going to compromise one iota on this one. We take it extremely seriously because this is, as I said, touching us as a human being, touching us as a leader, and touching us also as a business people.
Separately else, yeah.
And it was added
Hanna
year
Käskinen.
2000. So most
Terve.
of the suppliers have been
Minä tulen hakemaan.
for that.
Kiva, moi.
Yeah. So what do you take? Do you take 50 million?
But it's not a concrete cost issue.
Could become very concrete very quickly.
It
Yeah.
But
But that's their decision, though. Because if somebody says, well, it's not concrete, I don't know, then that doesn't actually remove the fact that they're responsible for that. So they actually need to make it concrete. So are they... Because that's what I said to... When I did that presentation to Marco's team, I actually said, are you prepared to be responsible for Nokia's image, brand? If it goes out the window, are you prepared to take personal responsibility? So you can save 50,000 euros, but are you prepared to, at the risk of spending 50 million in 2 years' time?
that's true.
Are you prepared to go to top management and say, it was my fault?
So you haven't met any one of these before?
Hello there. Hello. Hi.
Hi, David Stoneham.
Hi, David. Nice to meet you.
Get Kortalainen.
Hello.
So Kati is from Nokia Networks.
Okay.
David is our CSR director. Mr. CSR.
Please.
Nokia.
Captain CSR.
Please. Yeah, if it says responsibility, it comes my way.
Yeah.
Do you want coffee or tea?
Tea.
Some coffee would be great. So just...
Sorry, I don't have a car. My business card's ran out this morning. So, United Nations got the last one.
Did you order new ones?
Yeah.
Did you ask for recycled paper?
I didn't ask for recycled paper.
Will you please ask recycled paper?
I will ask for recycled paper.
It's been really embarrassing because I'm an environmental person. I've been traveling at suppliers in Japan, or everywhere, but especially in Japan. When I go to suppliers, I explain our environmental requirements to them, and then they give me their business card, which is really made out of nice recycled paper, and there's recycling logo there. And then I give my blank white, really shining white Nokia business card. So it's been rather embarrassing.
Because obviously I've had a look at your proposal, which I think is very good and is very straightforward about sort of where you are. I mean, it seems like a very accurate description of where you are in terms of perhaps not really understanding all the risks in the supply chain, sort of having the theory in place, but maybe not having the practice to back that up, which seems very honest, which is a good place to start.
But it's internal paper, and if
of course, I understand.
If they're not honest, then we are in deep trouble.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people, like to kid themselves even so. So, I think it's a very good place to start. And I think that what you're proposing, which is to start off with a small group of suppliers and really kind of test the waters, find out what's going on, and to explore ways of working with them, is a very sensible one. I mean, I've just got back from China, where we went to 4 different factories in completely different industries to yours. But I mean, we found double books in every single one of those factories. So
Really?
Yeah, and that is increasingly common. So you have one set of records which shows the government, the regulators, and people like us, that everything is beautifully in compliance with the law. But then when you compare that against the time cards and the hours that people are actually working, you find that there's a big difference between that and what's actually going on. And that's when you have to ask for the second set of books, or I think in Rosie's case this week, the third set of books, before you really understand what the situation is.
No Hanna täällä, moi. Kuule ystäväiseni, minkä maalainen on? Alun perin. Se oli kiva. Mun täytyy kertoa että meidän ihmisille. Okei, selvä. Okei, moi moi. It's good. They are in Shenzhen. They are rather labor intensive. And last time our purchasing manager was visiting them, they got a special thanks for that the chains were softened. Chains around the workers' legs were softened. That's what our purchasing manager told me. I hope that was. Yeah.
They're quick for the camera. That was a joke. I guess just some questions about young workers, whether there are any young workers in the factory under 18.
18 or 16?
Well, I'm interested in both, because I'm interested to know whether there's anyone under 16. But
Is there some standard of Nokia about the...
No. But what I'm interested in is whether, first of all, whether there's anyone under 16.
Okay.
And then if there is anyone under 18, whether they work at night and that kind of thing, whether they do hazardous work. I don't know, from your side, have you had many ethical assessments?
No.
Is this the first one?
This is the first.
Okay. And I think it's worth saying that there's a lot of interest in the UK and Europe at the moment in the electronics sector for ethical issues. I think, as Hannah was saying, people feel that they don't know very much about labour standards in this sector, and I think it's a sector where there's going to be growing interest in labour standards. Certainly, I also work in the UK with a number of ethical investment companies. And ethical investment companies, they're the people who decide, who go to companies like Nokia and put a lot of pressure on them about ethical issues. I know that Nokia will receive probably a large number of questionnaires in the year from investment companies, and those questionnaires cover environmental issues and they cover ethical issues. And the investors are very, very interested in the electronics sector. I know of 2 investment companies who are beginning to focus in this area.
I understand this is a benchmarking exercise as opposed to an audit as such. But presumably when you're doing that benchmarking, you do have criteria which you would be forming a judgment against.
Yes.
What would that criteria be?
Essentially, the criteria is local law.
Okay.
In actual fact, isn't it, Hannah, really?
Yes.
So the one thing really we need to find is somewhere where those worker interviews can take place. Somewhere that's not too intimidating.
Okay.
Yeah?
We'll find
I mean, ideally somewhere like the workers' canteen or something like that. Just somewhere where they're...
They could do it in that.
Yeah.
Or there's a conference room next door if they wanted to use that.
Okay. Probably it's important... There you go.
The best place, absolutely the best place.
So ideally somewhere where they go on a regular basis anyway and they feel comfortable. So somewhere like the canteen or recreation room or something would be great.
How old is this factory? When is this being built?
Quite long, right?
It looks so neat.
Around should be around 7 years.
7 years. Well, it's a new factory.
We try to keep it tight.
Yeah.
So it's, okay, here.
Yeah.
It's quite noisy, right? So. wire together.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's all the same. They are doing all
yes,
the same.
yes.
All the machines.
Same process.
How about the noise? Do the people should how about
Normally, we want them to wear this, but
okay.
people seems
Not to be using them.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have instructions for them to use? Do you have instructions for them to use the earplugs?
I think for this one, maybe not completely implemented.
Okay. But it's very clean. Where is your incoming?
Income actually score is over there. Maybe
I really have to say that I didn't know that you do the cables yourself. Let us see for me.
Well, in total, we're producing around 3 million cables a week, 2 meters, so that's 6 million meters, 6,000 kilometers of cable a week.
You make cables only for this factory, or do you make cables for other factories too?
We have 2 factories in Shenzhen, but we only make cables for our own chargers. Except we do send some leads and cables to our factory in Germany. We've still got some equipment which they purchased at the time, but to be frank with you, you can't replace these girls.
This is the most reliable.
Yeah, very reliable, very low maintenance, and it works well.
You're right. How long shifts do they have?
Basically, we work on 2 shifts.
Yeah, so it's for 12 hours.
No, typically it's a standard shift of 8 hours, and then we'll have overtime depending on our loading.
Okay, yeah.
But we wouldn't normally go up above 10 hours a day.
And most of these people, they're living in these dormitories near you.
I'd say 99% of our people live on site, yeah.
Yeah, oh well, if you're in Shenzhen, you don't have
No choice.
Well, this would be interesting to work for one day.
Do you want to go? Maybe tomorrow we'll get you a nice little blue.
Unfortunately, I've just been operated in my collarbone, so otherwise I could.
Oh, come on.
So I could manage with this.
We'll find something easy for you.
So it's German based. So how, yeah, but you don't have any German people here working.
Just find a new job if we did.
Interested in the fire extinguisher. Just because of my environmental background, I just love them. I wonder when they have been. Chlorine and bromine. They're just looking about us. I'm just curious. I've never seen PVC grinds.
You want to be careful, that's environmentally hazardous, that material.
Yeah, I could eat one. Like,
Doesn't
you know, really in the States, we were really in trouble, and we had to change the cables in our Californian, the charges that went to California, because it wasn't even that there would be any leaching, but we just couldn't prove that there is no. So that's a problem.
This is the next stage. We overmold that hard PVC core with a much softer, if you want to feel that. That's a much softer PVC, so it gives that nice, sexy...
So it's just the reason of being nicer to handle, nothing else?
Nothing else at all. We could mold the whole thing with that hard PVC, but you have a really unflexible strainer leaf on the end.
Yeah. When you really realize that this is a topic that we have to consider more on. So we started, of course, training our own people, because what I say that we can't just go to our suppliers immediately and tell them that, hey, come on, you should be doing this, this, and this, and this, if even our own people don't know what it's all about. So I started with training our own people and just doing, I've done it quite a lot. So for example, our Kimmo, he's well trained to this issue now. So
does he care?
Oh yes, he does. He sometimes said that okay, it might have some it may result to some price increases. Sometimes if we start requiring something. I said, well, most of it we don't even need to start requiring, because when the suppliers understand that something is done wrong, they just do it automatically. And on the other hand, the other risk is that we are not going to sell any product if we are going to be in the media with if somebody finds something, so we are not going to sell anything. So what is better, that we pay a bit extra for that. So because it's really a big risk for us, in fact. Of course, we have a company of Nordic origin, and that kind of, so we need to, I would say that the public expects us to be good that way. Okay, that's one reason that we need to be good, because we want to be good. But I would say the big thing why we are doing this is a business risk. Okay. It's really a business risk.
It always comes down to that.
Yeah, and as Louise says, that about these investors. So she said that we must probably be asking too many questions. I have to say that I answer to about one big questionnaire a month. It's not much, but it's quite a lot anyway, from big investors. But does Nokia have ethical requirements to the suppliers? If you do, what kind of ethical requirements? How have you communicated to your suppliers? Have you monitored the suppliers?
It should be easy to fill out because we haven't. So.
Yeah. How have you monitored the suppliers? What have you found at your suppliers? How are you reacting if you find any non-conformities?
Non-applicable, non-applicable.
So in fact, we need to create a system, and I think it's very good. We are not here to find any bad thing. I'd love if we didn't find any bad thing.
Oh, you will.
Yeah, should we just ask and say ask what these are used for and why they're kept here? I was just wondering about these chemicals here and what they're used for and why they're being stored here.
The chemical just for cleaning use.
Yeah? Are they for cleaning in the factory or for cleaning in this area?
No, cleaning the factory is cleaning the products.
Cleaning
the products. Using the process.
In the process?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just a bit concerned about having chemicals here and having water and everybody's drinking cups and things. See, there are drinking cups sitting there on the chemicals. Just a little thing you might want to think about. I mean, do you think it's safe for them to have chemicals there and to have drinking water and drinking cups?
Yeah, I think this is a problem. We need to separate the.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea.
To keep the good idea. Yeah.拿走。拿另外一个区放那个。这个是点拿看我刚才看的。马上。你跟我说，你想找哪一个？
无所谓，随便2区好了。
来，前面的好吧？这个好不好？好吧。麻烦你的厂牌我看看。Hello 啊，记下来，等一下他们会过来访问他。OK。001063，还有一个。他吗？003733。
I suppose they are. It's not. I hope it's not only for us they are wearing this mask because they have to. Otherwise, they would have no rains in the future.
It's a rule. They have to wear it. But as I was saying to Louise before, sometimes.
And of course, you get used to it. After an hour, you don't even notice there's a smell. That's terrible stuff. Mä kysyin sitä joo, mä kysyin sitä, ne menee ihan niinku roskiin vaan. Luis puuttui itse asiassa samaan asiaan mun mielestä. Että se oli hyvä.
是这样，因为呢，暂时来讲呢，之前我们公司也搞过一个叫福利委员会。
什么委员会？
福利。怎么样产生的？怎么样产生是那个他们员工推选出来的，然后我是协助他们去建立这个团体组织，然后我对他们那些生活呢也比较关注，好像现在也有一些问题，就是说，之前呢因为其实生活来来去去都几个大的问题了，饭堂的、吃的东西啊、住的问题啊，这样。
然后你的工人有没有买保险？我看我们是找对人了，工人的情况您最熟悉。
有没有买保险？
大概。
应该有啊。
应该有。
应该有。这个我要跟那个神经部的经理确认一下，我觉得好像是有的。
好像有。
对，好像养老保险啊那些都有。
但是我知道现在保险实际上不是硬性推行的一个制度，中国还没有保险法，就是只是说正在改革，尤其是像你对你们这种外资企业没有固定的要求，比如说要求每个工人都参加，要求什么保险先生都参加，好像没有这样。所以可能你们也是属于
这个我可以再给你多一点的资料，我等一下我再了解完了以后，我再提供给你，好不好？
员工其实这也是员工一种表达自己意见的方式，对吧？那我们就想
一个渠道。
对。除了这个还有没有别的渠道？
一件箱哦。对，在那个神经部。
好像没有看到。
神经部那个门口。
One thing that was a concern to me was that in the toilets, if you look at the toilets, and all the toilets were not particularly clean. They were okay, but not great. But they had hazardous chemicals stored in there next to the drinking water and all the drinking cups. So all the drinking cups were on one side, and there was a pallet full of hazardous chemicals, one with the lid off, right next to it. And drinking cups on top. Now whether those drinking cups were being used to handle chemicals, or whether they were drinking cups, I didn't know. But if we don't know, then chances are nobody else knows either.
If we had this factory in Europe, the company would need to provide with a physiotherapist in the company, I would say, for all this manual work. Must be very hot also.
Sorry?
Must be hot also. In the States, you would never be allowed to have this kind of a...
That's at about 460 degrees.
What are their break times?
I need a Gary to answer that. He can tell you that. They basically have time each hour when they go for their break, but what will happen is the whole team won't go together. Because the line will keep running and we'll have a floating girl will come in. Then they'll go to the washroom and there's water and tea in this area.
Yeah, that's where I get the idea that, hey, where are the teacups? Because they must be there. Yeah, I guess there would be. I was just missing the teacups because I knew that in Chinese factories you always have the teacups somewhere.
God knows how they find their own.
No. But I was just wondering that, hey, it's so clean here that I'm so used to seeing.
And I'm concerned about the chemicals and the drinking cups and the water being together in the same space. Yeah, because there were drinking cups on top of the chemical containers.
Okay.
And, you know.
Okay, we'll think about that.
It's a little thing, but easy to solve.
几点钟开始？
我想应该差不多了吧，差不多。
再看每一个人1个小时啊？
刚开始要，后面就应该快点，因为刚开始我们什么情况都不知道，所以我们要问的细致一点。
哦，那我们可以旁听吗？
你们有兴趣吗
？Of course。那最起码我要知道你问什么、关注什么问题，然后我们才那个生活上面帮他们改善吗？
啊。
对不对？
不过我想有一个问题，就是刚才路易斯他刚才在介绍的时候也说了，因为什么呢？他是说想有安排跟 management 单独的 interview， 然后我们呢是跟工人的 interview。他想知道一个 whole picture。
我只是 middleman 而已。
啊。
我又不是高级的，我又不是低级的，我只是 middleman， 所以我应该可以听啊，无所谓啊。
对我们来说没什么，但是对工人来说，您就是一个 big boss。
这没什么的，因为对他们来讲呢，我跟他们也是好朋友。
是，但是确实有这个问题。会在心理上面有。他会有害怕这种情绪。
It kind of happens almost automatically. It just all comes together as you discuss it. Hello. You've got a problem.
We can conduct interview at canteen. We have select a small room, maybe meeting room for separate, and they will not do the whole process by that. So whether it's okay for the work. I'm not very sure they will feel very comfortable to go.
So, sorry, is it near the canteen or is it up here?
No, just
near the canteen.
No, in this building.
That's what they're suggesting.
I'm not very happy with that.
Prefer candy.
Okay, where is he? I'll talk to him. They're not comfortable with this.
No, they won't have the idiots here.
Looking at wages to begin with, do you have a probationary period when new workers come to the factory?
Yeah.
How long's that?
3 months.
3 months. And are they on a different wage during that period to the rest of the time? How would that wage compare to standard wages?
About 80%.
And once they get beyond that period and they're fully fledged workers, is everybody making the minimum wage, local minimum wage? What is the local minimum wage here?
I could tell you anything.
Oh, no, you couldn't actually. I've got it here, but I'm just asking you your opinion first.
It's just changed from 21 to 22 RMB per day.
22.
But only just gone to 22. Come on in, Al. I think we need you.
So for a month, that's 21.
26 days,
520 plus 26.
Sorry?
546, right? For 26 days.
546.
6 days a week.
Sorry?
6 days a week.
Yes.
7 days.
Do you have a system of fines in the factory?
Yes.
How does that work?
Depends on what there's certain regulations. If they breach them, they can be fined. Yeah.
So what kind of thing would that be for?
Oh.
To file a penalty.
Penalty. Sorry. Yeah.
Usually we don't have a penalty.
But we do.
Basically, we don't fine the staff unless they have damaged something. They have to compensate to the company.
But there's things like if they lose their badge.
They lose their ID card, or they break something in the dormitory, something like this.
If they're late.
Yeah.
Late, according to this is according to our rules. If they late, they don't have the attendance bonus now.
They don't have.
They
They don't get their attendance bonus. Yeah, but then, do they have a penalty if they're late as well?
Only a small.
Yeah.
Very small.
How much would that be?
Now, if they are late for more than 5 minutes, they will be fined for half an hour's wage.
The payment for accommodation and for food, how does that work? Can you just talk me through that?
We deduct a total of 150 renminbi per month, which is 120 for food and 30 for accommodation.
So as far as the work, and all the workers live on site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the workers, yeah.
Yeah. So that they don't have any choice about whether that's deducted from their wages or not. And I think from a customer viewpoint, going back to this thing about deductions and compulsory deductions from the minimum wage, I think that from a customer viewpoint, we'd be much more comfortable. Well, I'm speaking slightly for Nokia here, but this is my view based on the other companies that I work with, much more comfortable with that, with people having a choice. I mean, I think the idea of compulsory deductions, particularly when they take people below the minimum wage, is one which is pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, having the choice and getting at least the minimum salary, minimum wages is much better for us.
So that would work for everybody, in fact, and probably for the workers as well. And how many days in the week would they work overtime? How many days a week would they work overtime? It was 10 to 12, is it sort of a couple of hours every day?
Yeah.
Normal. And what are they paid for working overtime?
According to the labor law. It is a must.
Yeah?
What is that? How much is that?
Why is that a must? And why are you laughing?
That's law.
It's law. It's getting smart.
Yeah.
It might be useful if Alan were to explain to you the plan that we're working on at the moment, because we do identify a risk because we do not fully comply with the labour law.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they exceed the number of weekdays. Yeah.
Okay. And we are going to give every worker a contract in the coming year.
Okay, so you don't have a contract, signed
No.
you don't have any signed contract
We
now?
can't. We can't because we don't comply with the law. We can't put in place contracts.
That's interesting because most people do it regardless, and they have a contract which says what the law says, because all the contracts are issued by the Labour Department, so they will say the law, and then other people just
rather honest from
do
you.
whatever. It's very honest.
Yeah. In a way,
very.
Yeah. I like that better. But then signing a contract, because you know that you comply with it.
Labor Department.
Part of the motivation is that
呢兩個冇，呢兩個因為我哋已經做開嘅啦，所以我哋而家俾 Labor Department 咧度咧，我冇。
sophisticated in the way that they approach employment, and they will now go to labour tribunals, and we need to protect ourselves against that.
So
We have an
you don't even
exposure.
have signed contracts with staff, with salaried personnel?
We have it with everybody.
Okay. So for all items, we have to discuss with the Labour Bureau office, and also they also come here like you to inspect
The
everything.
Labour Bureau office, they didn't react that way, that you have not complied earlier, so they have not reacted to your non-compliance before.
Yeah.
And I think that's also in a way.
Yeah. So every year we also have applied. They come here for an audit and issue us audit report, audit permit to pass. Otherwise, the company will be fined. And usually there's a law requirement and a market requirement. There's some gap.
Yes. Indeed.
This is good. And here we can see. Well, this is the dormitories. This is the dormitories.
Running all the way around.
Huge dormitories.
Right. We get all the buildings washed on the outside once a year because they get pretty shitty.
Yeah, that's very good. It's not so many who do that.
No, it's not.
I think it's important. There's nothing worse if you've got a decent factory and people walk in. It looks as if it's 20 years old.
It looks immediately different because in this climate and with all these fumes, they just look rather terrible. Really. I wonder what that water is. It's just water that goes from...
It's just drainage.
Yeah.
It's just a drainage channel that runs all the way around. Thank you for filming that.
Oh,
Sure they'll be interested
you
in
film
Finland.
all... No, you film all interesting things. But I would say that only 10 seconds or whatever, 15 or 20 maybe in the film. If it's ever been a film.
Is it a Nokia commissioned film or?
It's in fact a film made by there are some broadcasting companies in Europe, like I would say that it's the Finnish Yle and the Danish TV and Canal Plus or whatever. They bought a Nokia. They bought a documentary of Nokia, and then he's chosen to make it. Oh, they're taking soup from here. In fact, it looks delicious. And the kitchen for...
They're all wondering what you're doing here.
Pardon?
They're all wondering what you're doing here.
Ah, yes, you should have seen our Korean people when I insisted to have a meal in Korean workers' canteen. They were just shocked. They didn't understand what I say. They thought I was just saying wrong. And also
you
just
get
going
a similar
through.
reaction here, I think. So all of the meals are controlled by the identity card.
So they have to show their identity card.
Yeah, they swipe their card. And these two clowns are they're working for the contractor just to make sure that everyone swipes it, so he gets paid for it.
Oh, okay, yeah, because then they get some food from there.
They have a selection. We can go in this kitchen.
Yeah, we'll go to. I wonder where Louise. She should. Onko Louise vielä siellä? I'm just asking about the guards. Are they're your people? So they are just for the general security and.
Personal army. General security. Yeah,
Under which organization are they?
Administration.
Yeah.
They were reporting to our. But we keep them out of the factory. They're basically for ensuring that things aren't stolen, or guarding the gates, general law and order around the factory.
Yeah.
You want to come in?
Yeah, I want. I'm just curious. This is they are empty tanks.
Diesel.
What's that?
Diesel.
For the ovens or whatever. Yeah.
Pretty big woks.
Oh yes.
And shovels. Usually they got the spades for cooking it with, and then big brushes for cleaning it around with.
Do you know what you do with the extra food that's left over?
Again, that's all. It's the contractor who takes care of it. They sell most of it for pigs. Feed it to the pigs.
But in a way, understand the companies. That the companies, of course, think that okay, if they have to start to increase the wages, but of course we have to think the both sides, or the workers
and the people as
yeah,
well.
or the people and then the profits.
And I think ultimately the tension you've described between the market and between regulation, that's actually where customers come in, because customers have to make the choice, which is have to influence the balance that the factory makes. And ultimately, the time will come where there will be a direct choice for customers between making sure that all their suppliers comply with regulation and between their own profit, in fact. Because, you're absolutely right. You can't absorb a 5% increase year on year, particularly at a time where you're under pressure on costs and on delivery times and everything else. And something in that equation has to give.
Yeah.
Sorry. Poor girls. Hello. What's the maximum amount of bed? Is maximum 8 or 4? 8.
So for accommodation, for workers we have 8 persons per room.
8 persons per room is the maximum.
And for some junior staff is 4 person per room.
Okay, so this is junior staff. 8 is maximum. 8 is maximum. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. They have a toilet and they have a running water.
Yeah.
Do they, for example, where can they take a shower? Is there a place generally where they could take a shower?
Yeah. Here.
Here. Just check that the water is coming. It's the same rooms.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah.
So the bed, sleeping bed, and for upper part they put their own belongings.
Yeah. Okay. How about food? Do they usually store any food in here?
No, not allowed.
也是你的生活。
4个人啊。The below floor is for boys, and the upstairs is for girls. And the boy cannot go to upstairs. This is a
Girl
rule.
can visit boy.
Depends on their mind, their mindset, right? If she have a boyfriend, boyfriend in the lower factory, but cannot overnight.
What percentage of your workers are women? Most.
Women or girls?
Yeah. Oh no, girls.
Girls, okay.
Females.
Females, okay. 90 something percent. 90 something percent.
So the boys must be popular.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
He's laughing.
He's still a single.
There you are. That's why he's laughing.
I mean, the guys just sit at home and.
Yeah, that's what I've understood. That's what I've understood. But still, I thought that in the workplace, when you start working in the workplace, they would be treated in a way.
We treat them pretty much the same, but we keep them isolated.
Yeah, there are no married couples living here, I suppose. Yeah.
They're not allowed to. There's not too many married couples anyway, but the ones who are have to live outside.
Yeah,
because it just causes too many.
Yeah, it makes. I think that's the general rule for all of the dormitories.
And in fact, we're responsible for. I've had to sign a certificate for birth control. So, yeah. So if any of the girls were to get pregnant, again, the company's responsible for that because it's illegal.
Okay. Have you had any problems with that?
No. We've had 1 or 2 actually.
Yeah.
But what we'll generally do is suggest to the girl that she would be better off leaving the area, going back home. Okay, because if she's caught here, she runs the risk of a forced abortion.
Okay.
How about what's the factory policy on maternity leave?
We allow them 3 months. 3 months maternity leave.
For their first child.
Yeah, for the first child. Of course, if you have birth allowed permit.
We've had at least one case where somebody has become pregnant for the second time. There's not much we can do in that situation, except for lay them off. If a worker were to become pregnant legally, they probably couldn't continue working there because they couldn't live in the dormitories unless they can make other arrangements for their kid. But that's not.
Most of them will take their children home anyway.
But culturally, that's not really the way it works anyway.
Yeah.
Most of the workers, by the time they get to the stage where they're going to have a kid, they'll be back at home in their hometown or village with their husband and washing his socks every night or whatever they do.
反正第一组就是焗油的就行。
好，4个焗油。
嗨，你们好。
这是我们厂的拉长生偏秀。
哦，你呢？
我是一厂的文员，我带他下来。
哦，这样的，那你请坐吧。
好，谢谢。
我把东西拿过来。OK。
你是哪里人吗？
广东的。
广东哪里？
西宜。
西宜。
广东西宜，写信的信，宜昌的宜。
哦，西宜啊。离这儿有多远啊？
坐汽车的话大概要10个小时左右啊。
哦。你是上了初中还是高中？高中。毕业了没有？
毕业了。
假如说你结婚的话，你会不会辞工？
我要辞工。
为什么？
因为我在这里做了这么几年了哦，就实在不想做了，想回去玩一下再出来。
哦，玩一下还是想再出来是吧？
因为家里没什么好做的。
家里面没有田耕吗？
有啊。就是假如种那个田不行的。
这样耕田都没有钱用是吧？
没多少钱的。
你觉得最想跟我们说的是什么？
最想说，
对我们应该是有没有信任那种，担不担心说，有什么特别想跟我们说的，想反映工厂里面的情况？
最想说的就是我觉得生活应该提好一点的，因为在这里太累了啊。老是像我生活有时候不好，我们老是在外面去买东西吃，那样生活费用用的，好像零用钱就用的多一点嘛。
哦，你们买那么多零食，是因为觉得很累？
因为觉得那个生活不好。
生活是吃的不好。
就是好像吃的有时候，有时候有自己不喜欢吃的嘛，那些菜啊，自己不喜欢吃的就吃的少一点啊，就要买零食来吃哦。
他们全都还没吃饭。
他们是刚从下班吗？
不是，他们刚开始我们公司，他马上过来了。刚刚我找那个小姐就去问你们就她出来先。我本来想放他们去吃饭，也不知你们也还有多久。最后你说5分钟，我就他们等5分钟。
那
如果你提早跟我说的，我也先让他们去吃饭嘛。你能不能等他们15分钟，让他们15分钟时间去吃饭？
好，
好不好？
好。
OK。不好意思，要15分钟的吃饭时间，让他马上过来好不好？
可不可以啊？
没有饭吃啊
？12点饭了没有饭吃？
说穿了没问题，你们自己去搞定。
那可不可以帮他们也要一些三明治？我们一边吃一边聊啊。
可以去买咯。
可以啊。
有什么办法？你也不早一点说。这个我觉得你们的安排确实很适当了。如果你早点提出的要求的清晰一点的要求，我们肯定是要会跟你尽量配合。
We're not boss, you know.
OK， 你们先进去吧，我安排饭菜给你们吃。好，
谢谢你们啊。
像有的要是吵得厉害的，比如说上一次嘛，我们厂就是有个女孩子新员工嘛，她那个领班就是好过分嘛，骂人啊，骂得好难听啊，她都是骂那些什么你怎么笨得像个猪一样，什么教你那么多遍你都不会，那么蠢呐，是吧？做不了就走人喽，那样教啊，你说话那么绝，人家心里听了肯定不舒服嘛啊。那你难道你生出来你进这个厂你就会呀啊？你慢慢教人家嘛啊，那一教他教的不人家就骂人家就气嘛。后来还有人家是要逼人家想炒掉人家嘛，因为他新员工嘛，试用期间他们有那个权利炒人嘛。那一天那女孩子就打他那个。打领班呀，打，然后追下来，追那个领班在后面叫啊，那个一点素质都没有，整个车队人都看到，他在那，哎呀，抓住他，给我报警，送公安局，他说。
最后怎么处理的？
他就跟后面跑下来，他说后面就跟着几个走狗一起和几个女孩子一起就跑，跟着跑，那个女孩子也跑得好快嘛，也怕嘛哦。跑了你就那个保安就拦住了嘛。 办公室打电话叫保安拦住嘛，拦住他就在你说嘛，但是在你们班是不敢打人嘛，那你打了一打就白打了，你要是还手了就会被炒掉嘛，你等于是违反常规了嘛。
你班又打人了？
他没有嘛，
他
就不打，他就给你骂，他不敢打。
挺厉害。那他最后肯定辞工了吧？
他就被炒掉了吗？那也很气人的，因为每个人忍耐是有限度的，是吧？你要是你惹火了，有的脾气暴躁那个，你骂他那么绝啊，人家才就宁愿不出这个场了哦，那么气人。
那吵架这种事情多吗？
对呀。
那样也少，不过那样的领班就是那么凶吗？你跟那种人说话。
那工厂对这种领班会不会惩罚的？
惩罚个鬼呀！什么惩罚都没有，他们还不是蛇手一窝。
说我们也，但是今天确实我们时间比较紧，以后有机会吧，再跟你们。谢谢你们啊。
刚才那个小姐，我刚才你说5月份拿多少工资？我没听到。
5月份我啊，200多。
200多是吗？谢谢你们啊，
谢谢啊。
让他们进来好吗？现在他们那个午餐叫回来，你们是要先吃了再。
午餐不，我们先访吧。你们无所谓，我们无所谓的。就是他们方便不方便？这几个工人方便吗？
要多长时间？
尽量快吧，半个小时应该怎么样？
你们的半个小时我都不相信，刚刚说半个小时就1个小时了。
Okay, do you know, how do you stop a child from stepping on it? Even if it's an electric cable, they're still going to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that's what it was first the lead and cadmium there, and then it was then when the discussion of phthalate started, which is totally PVC free. So PVC is in our Nokia substances list, not as restricted but as monitored. And to our suppliers, we say that we strongly advise them to find alternative solutions.
Yeah, because the writing's on the wall.
Yeah,
no, that's very good.
What about the second floor? You have a look at the transformer.
I mean, the lighting's good, but it's very close work, isn't it? I mean, it must put a strain on their eyes. If you look on the board, there's shifts above ours. And I asked Shamin to ask one of them, and they said yes, they do work above ours. But when she asked a question, Jackson came rushing over, and they said, "You're not allowed to ask questions here. Our agreement only extends to the other factory."
Okay. You are now in the situation that you will need to have the overtime.
Not really.
No, but downstairs they're working 12 hours.
Sorry. You mean on the whiteboard, right?
Yeah. There are targets.
I
for
think,
each hour.
we say for some lines, right? They may need to start working at 6.
Yeah.
For some floor, they need to start working at 6:30. Right. So normally, on the whiteboard, we will mark down from 6 to 6, right? Yeah. That is a record, right? Say for sometimes, right, if we are short of material, we may need to release people for a few hours. Then, sure, we better keep some record there, for control.
And from this,
Just like
so,
this, right?
Yeah, exactly the same, yeah.
Once machine picks up, we may lose, some working hours.
But how about the girls out? If you don't have any production during those 3 hours, for example, do they get paid for these 3 hours?
According to the rule, right? If we release them, normally don't need to pay.
So then officially, according to your records, they will be working only 9 hours a day out of one is
No, because we're assuming that a machine's going to break down for 3 hours a day, but that's crazy.
Yeah,
You've got high-tech, top-of-the-range machines here. You're not going to let them break down for 3 hours a day.
Yes, of course we will try to do. Right, so normally, once some problem happen in those machines, will be quite a long time.
Yeah,
right?
but
So
how often do you
just
have a problem with the machine?
not really often.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So if we would like to see the payroll records from this factory, so are they here or are they in the other factory?
I have to contact Ellen.
Can you check, please? Yeah, because that'd be interesting.
So it looks to me like the whole factory is working 12-hour shifts.
This one.
Ellen 啊，你睇邊啊？你沙井啊？喂，而家阿 Hannah 佢哋想睇個西坑個 payroll 喎，有邊個可以俾到睇啊？即係話等佢 pass 翻個 file 俾你哋定點啊？你咩？因為點解你係
More demanding work, they get exactly the same pay.
Dreadful.
Like all those.
Dreadful.
Yeah. They need 2-3 days or 2 weeks for training.
And it's funny, yesterday
when
they said that they had those position bonuses, I nearly said at one point, oh, you mean danger money? Yeah. And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it is.
And it's the same in Europe.
Yeah, for dirty work, yes.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, no,
okay.
yeah.
Mr. Young, the main superintendent.
Hello.
Hello.
Ni hao. She takes some different months.
Let me just check one thing. I think that's fine. I think we do better to go back to the other one and work back through the year so that we can get a better understanding of peaks and troughs probably.
Yep.
But that's... So we don't need to look at that in any more detail, I don't think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting to see this factory because it's in a way different from the other one.
Yeah. So any more questions?
Not enough from this factory. I think we can go and continue in the other.
Okay.
Because that is quite a big increase. That's a 2 RMB increase per day. So they obviously have realised.
Yeah. But then they still have this 150.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is quite a lot percentually.
And I mean, if you're a probationary worker and you're making 17 RMB a day and you're working a full month, you're going to get 357, which is more than 100 RMB short of the minimum wage. And then you take off 150, 207 RMB for working a full month.
And then they're going to tell you about the overtime, but you can't calculate the overtime, and that is very difficult to explain to them that you can't really calculate the overtime.
Well, the way they present the records is quite clever, because they add it all up and they add the overtime, so it looks like quite a nice sum. Then they deduct the accommodation, and you're still left with something which actually looks quite a bit more than the minimum, because the overtime is so significant.
Yeah, because you never see what would be your normal wages after the deduction.
Plus, of course, your standard wage at the beginning is calculated on, in some months, 26 days, not 21 days. So that figure is already misleading. Yes, they're working overtime above the law. They're not working extreme overtime. But because they're paying the right premiums, it swells the salary sufficiently that when you look at the final figure, you kind of think, oh, well, even if I take some overtime off this, it still looks okay. Yeah. You know? But if you actually sit down and analyse it, it's not okay.
Gary?
Yeah, Gary's coming.
Simon?
Oh, yeah, tell me to hurry up, please. We'll ask him to.
Simon?
Simon?
Hello. All around the room. Yeah. Okay, I think probably the best way to do this meeting is for me, kind of as lead auditor, to just feed back to you all, and then for Hannah to give you Nokia's view on what we've found. I'd like to start by thanking you all for the time that you've given us. You've given us a great deal of very high quality management time. Amazing sound. As I say, you've given us a great deal of very high quality management time, which we appreciate, and also your openness with us in discussing all the different issues has been fantastic. So thank you very much indeed for that. We're also very, very pleased to see the quality of your record-keeping systems, which are very good. And as a sort of veteran campaigner of making sense of records in China, I think they're excellent. And the level of transparency is very high, which we were very happy with. A couple of issues that we would like to raise. The varnishing room, obviously, as it stands at the moment, is a problem, but we recognise that you've got a plan in place to introduce new machines in there which will solve that problem. Have you got any idea about the sort of timescale that will be involved?
Within half a year.
Within half a year. Oh, that's kind of what we were hoping. Okay, that's great. The storage of hazardous chemicals in one of the toilets was a bit alarming, or rather the fact that it was adjacent to drinking water and water cups and things like that. So I think it'd be good if we could do something about that as well. I think the only other two issues really that I'd like to raise are, one is the fact that your probationary workers are being paid lower than the minimum wage, which again is not in line with the law. I don't know what your motivations for doing that are. You know, we can discuss that or not, as the case may be, but I think that's something that could be reviewed. And the other issue, of course, is overtime. And we've looked at the records for quite a large chunk of last year and can see exactly what you've been describing to us, which is obvious fluctuations in orders and consequently fluctuations in levels of overtime. What I would say is that the overtime obviously is over and above the legal limit. It's not off the end of the scale in terms of what we've seen in other places by any means. So I think we'd just like to see efforts to bring that down. So overall, I think we feel very strongly that you're moving, very definitely in the right direction, and we're very happy with that.
So I hope you also learned something from this. Yeah, and when your next customer comes to you with this, you said, hey, we've done this once for Nokia already, so we're familiar with this.
I would like to thank you guys for sharing that with us. I mean, particularly for people like Richard and myself, which are foreign people in China. I mean, we are a European company manufacturing in China. Our understanding is a little different than some. If you perhaps go to some more localized companies, I would guess, or certainly when I've been to localized companies, they're a little different. So, I'm pleased to hear that we have some positive things from what you found. We will take good input from it, and we'll make sure at management level that we do implement as best we can against what it is interesting for us. The only one problem I have is that I heard something yesterday about the videoing being used for a documentary.
There's a documentary being made of Nokia. It's made by Nokia, but of Nokia. And one of the topics is really this supply chain ethics, because this is a new issue, and they are following, this film crew is following us in a way in this Nokia process of doing these things, where we have openly admitted that in the beginning, yes, we recognize that this is an important issue for us, for Nokia, but also, and that we have done something, but we admitted that we have not done enough, and we know that we have to start working on this. And they learn that this is very important to also to show that the big company with a good reputation, they have things that they have not done, and they are just learning, and they will follow us and see and film not only in these suppliers but in many other places too. But before we came, we asked or said that yes, we of course asked the permission from the supplier.
I had no problem with the filming.
We don't know we didn't know how much of this will be shown in the end. Yeah.
I have an issue or a problem because I have a major shareholder back in Germany who is particularly low profile in terms of the aspects of the company, and I touched base last evening with them to a point where we're unable to give our consent to documentary activity. No problem whatsoever for you to be filming. Richard gave you the approval for that, and within the context of the benchmarking and in the context of being able to assess us and help us, and you use it for your records back home to see, well, what did we say, what didn't we say within Nokia, then we realise as a customer and a supplier in the partnership that we need to do whatever you need to do. But I cannot get the say-so from the shareholder, who particularly is particularly low profile in terms of aspects of our operation being outside of customer and supplier relationship. So I would just ask if you need me to do something written in that side of it, then I will do so. My understanding, first of all, was that it was going to be used internally inside Nokia for your records and for your help for you to be able to assess and make report and do the benchmarking. If it's outside of Nokia, then I have a problem, and maybe you will need me to get you something written on that. If it's inside Nokia, then we obviously realise and recognise the partnership and relationship between supplier and customer, but the shareholders I have to report to are particularly anxious to remain low profile and would ask for some respect in terms of this is between a customer and a supplier, and if it's on News at 10 or Panorama, then that's
yeah, that you can do without.
No. That's not the point.
No, I understand.
And we're quite,
I understand.
If there are things
You're
that
being
we
very
show,
clear.
then they tend, without physically being there, they tend to be open to all sorts of interpretations, which it's not a case of we can do without it. That's not the point. We are very committed to make sure that we can, within Nokia supplier partnership that we have, that we react to this positively, which I hope we can show to you that we can. And no problem for you using the document or video stuff that you found in order for you to internally in Nokia to generate your report, use it to show Kimo or whatever inside Nokia in terms of Nokia relationship. But I can't get my shareholder to move on wider circulation than that.
But that company, they had flat 36 hours overtime for all the people all the time, no matter whether it was a peak period or low season. So that was, in a way, then you start thinking, how can this be possible? But they're all the time, everybody has 36 hours overtime. But what did we find then? Really findings. At 2 of these 4 suppliers, they were not paying minimum wages in all the production lines. That was rather interesting. The people got more than the minimum, but they got the minimum after the overtime.
So what was the reaction from top management on this issue?
First one, they asked that who is going to pay if they start paying minimum wages. So I had a really simple answer.
This is a wrong answer.
The question was wrong. Yeah, I said that the question was wrong, but then I really had a good answer too. Because I say, first, we know rather well our suppliers' cost breakdown. We know that the wage cost is less than 10% of their total cost. And I could calculate that if they start paying minimum wage, their wage cost will increase a maximum 8%, which means that their total cost will increase maximum less than 1%. And if their total cost increase less than 1%, then they will be acting legally. So of course we also ask them to act legally, they have to act legally, and they can't really, if it's less than 1%, it's not a discussion topic. So that was rather simple. And the other one, they were paying minimum wage at our production line. They were not paying minimum wage in the neighboring production line. And they have increased the wages in our production line 2 weeks before we came.
Yeah, but once again, I think the ethical issue is not for people working for our line. It's for the spirit and the values of the company. So it doesn't matter for us if it is for our line or for our competitors' line.
Yeah, but that was rather interesting. They had increased the wages at our production line. And then they said, their reaction was that, hey, we are interpreting the legislation a bit differently. Oh, I would have so many examples. So they didn't have any signed contracts with the workers. They didn't have any written contracts with the workers. And we asked, why? Why not? Well, you know, because we are not complying with the legislation. So if we had the contracts, so if we had legal contracts, then we...
Yeah, I got the point, yeah.
If we had legal contracts, contracts that just are written legally, then we would be just violating the contract. But on the other hand, if the contract would say, as we are doing, then we would have illegal contracts. So they didn't have any signed contracts. And the management replied this way. They gave the answer.
At least they are honest, but this doesn't satisfy probably the way we would like them to do business with us.
No, but I would say that this is a beginning. You can't change the world overnight. So in a way, it's, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anna.
No problem. I love to talk about this.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Bye-bye.
Pakko se on näin tehdä.